these might be, they're way up there. If we were going to rank them, 2 games against the Devils in 2000. We'll start with Game 5. They lose to the Devils 4-1 at home. The Flyers came in leading the series 3-1. Chance to close it out. And for all the people who are always, oh, if Lindros doesn't come back, we would have won. Why didn't they win this one? They're at home against the Devils, leading 3-1 in the series. Why not put them away here? No, you lost 4-1. They needed Lindros back. But classic Brodeur game. Stopped 20 of 21. Yeah, gives up one. Great
Hall
game.
Famer.
21 shots on goal in a closeout game at home. The Flyers were able to record.
This was the embarrassing one. Like out of the 3 games they lost to lose the series, this was the embarrassing one because you had it. You had it. Like you'd won 3 straight games. You had all the momentum. You're at home. This was the game you had to win, and they obviously lose it. They just, and if I remember, I mean, I was very young. I guess I was 11 when this game happened. But I remember thinking like they just don't have it tonight, and it's weird. And you're like, given how well they played the previous 3 games, how do they just not have it? Like, do they just think that well, we got 3 shots, we'll get it done? Like, this was your shot. It was, and you know, it's the other 2 games were competitive, but this one was just like they just laid an egg at the worst possible time. And even though the 4-1 score doesn't seem, you know, embarrassing at first glance, given the opportunity in front of them, like this is the game you look back on and you say, what were you even doing?
Yeah.
Was this, or was it Game 7 the first time they broke out Kate Smith and Lauren Hart duet?
Ooh, I do not.
I don't remember.
I think it was this one, but it might have been Game 7. Like that would make a ton of sense. But I know I'm almost positive it was this series in one of these 2 games. And of course, after they lose this game, Lindros comes back for Game 6, scores, in my mind, twice. I was convinced for years that the first goal Lindros scored that was taken off the board because it went in after the buzzer, I was convinced for years there was still time on the clock. And then, of course, you know, YouTube comes around and you can find it. It was like a second and a half, 2 seconds after, like, shouldn't have counted. But still, I believe he scored twice in that game, and they only score the 1 goal, Lindros, but it was all his fault to set up a Game 7. And this is, maybe if not for the Blackhawks game, we'll obviously get to that at some point. Maybe the low point, like the worst game in franchise history.
Of my life, yes. Mm-hmm.
Like Lindros gets knocked the fuck out. You officially blow the 3-1 lead, lose Game 7. That's it. Patrick Elias scores with 2.5 minutes left in the third. It's 1-1 all the way to, you're like, all right, Game 7 going overtime. Oh, no, shit, they win. Fuck.
They outshot the Devils 27-18. Like, it's not, this game is not a game where like they didn't show up. And the fact that they kept pushing even after Lindros gets essentially like dragged off the ice, like that could have shell shocked them, and they kept pushing. It's just they were facing one of the best goalies of the era, and they couldn't beat him.
This is what makes that Game 5 so bad. Exactly. Is that this, like, the only reason Lindros came back is because you couldn't close it out. And if they had closed it out, our entire lives could be different. Like, everything could be different. And instead, like, the worst thing ever happened.
That's Game 5. Like, as bad as 7 is, like, Game 5, the way you lost all that, like, that's franchise altering. Like, there's no Stevens hit if there's no Game 7. Like, who knows? Yeah. Maybe Lindros comes back for the final, and then they fucking win, and it's a whole different world. Like, Jersey did go on to win this cup. Who'd they beat? Dallas, I think. God damn it.
They beat Dallas,
I hadn't even thought of that until just now, Kelly. Like, if they just win that Game 5.
All they had to do was win it.
God damn it.
Eric who knows? His whole life. Like,
there's a good chance.
He was a war criminal. Like, everything could have changed if they had just won that friggin' game.
So here's one thing I want to bring up, because I was refreshing my memory about this season. And oh my God, like this season from June through Lindros getting stretchered off the ice, like this was 2 decades worth of awful compressed into like 13 months. It was so like, okay. And just like, there was just so much shit. Like it kicks off. I'm just going back through here. It kicks off with something truly terrible that happens in July of 1999 when Dmitry Tertizhny dies in a boating accident. So it's like, okay, like you're losing an exciting young prospect in the most tragic way possible. So like you have that happen. Then you have the head coach, Roger Nielsen, gets cancer, and you have that whole thing where he's recovering from cancer and then isn't allowed to come back. And like the organization is fighting with the cancer-stricken coach. So that's going on. They trade Brindamore for Primo. Lindros is, and this had started the previous season, but it escalates this year. He starts openly feuding with Bob Clark because Clark starts calling him out for the toughness on the concussions. You know, the previous season, they almost let the guy die because they misdiagnosed the lung. And this just becomes the two just taking shots at each other. They stripped the C off Lindros this season. Like there was just so much stuff. And then somehow this team keeps winning until it ends the way it ends. Like this was in this like 14-month period, this was like a lifetime's worth of crap.
How did we make it through that? Like, how are we still fans of this hockey team after?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine Twitter? Can you imagine if Twitter existed during this season?
I don't even. We wouldn't have made it.
I don't even want to think about what that would be like because, like, man, think about like the Claude Giroux defenses now. Like, it's just like, yeah, he's better than you think he was. You know, back then it was like, yeah, Lindros, he's a little bitch. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, no, man, he just keeps getting hit in the head.
Yeah. No, they almost let him die in a bathtub.
Yeah.
No big deal. What's his problem? Just get
He's got a punctured lung. He's got 3 concussions. Like, I don't know. It seems as if he just has some really, really bad luck. Like, I cannot imagine what the Twitter wars would have been like back then. But, yeah, that's... Jesus.
I was in the AOL hockey chat at the time because I'm a real one, and I can tell you it wasn't great. Yeah,
I remember
it wasn't great.
This was a horrible. Why did I come up with this idea? I'm mad about shit. I'm mad about shit from 25 years ago, and it's like a beautiful Friday in July.